It was a quiet Saturday morning when everything changed. I was sipping coffee in my kitchen, scrolling through my phone, when I heard the front door creak open. I live alone. I never leave the door unlocked. My heart skipped a beat as I peeked around the corner. And there she was, Karen, our HOA president, standing in my foyer like she had every right to be there. "Karen, what are you doing in my house?" I asked, stunned. She didn't even flinch. She looked around, wrinkled her nose like something smelled bad, then said, "You've got a code violation. I need to document it before it gets worse. Let me explain something. Karen is infamous in our neighborhood. Early 50s, always in pastel cardigans and carrying a brown leather clipboard like it's a police badge. If you leave your trash can out an extra hour, she writes it up. Your mailbox leans 1 inch too far. She's got photos and an email ready. But this, walking into my home uninvited, that crossed a major line. "Get out," I said firmly, stepping toward her. She scoffed. "You signed the HOA agreement. That gives me inspection rights." That's when I pulled out my phone and hit record. "No, it doesn't. Not inside my home. This is trespassing." Her face twitched, that smug expression faltering just a little. "I'm just doing my duty. By breaking and entering." She turned red and muttered something about checking mold compliance, then tried to push further in. That's when I stepped between her and the hallway. "I'm calling the sheriff," I said, locking eyes with her. Karen froze. She probably thought I was bluffing. I wasn't. I'd had enough of her games. I dialed loud enough for her to hear the dispatcher answer. "Yes, I'd like to report an HOA representative trespassing in my home without consent." She entered without knocking or permission. Karen stammered something about a misunderstanding, but I just turned my camera on her. "Explain it to the sheriff," I said. And that was the first time I saw her nervous. She turned on her heels and walked out, muttering angrily under her breath. But she didn't realize it was already too late because the sheriff was on his way. 15 minutes later, I saw the sheriff's cruiser roll up in front of my house. Karen was still outside, standing at the edge of my lawn with her arms crossed and that same sour look on her face, as if I was the one who'd done something wrong. The deputy stepped out. He was a tall, no-nonsense type in his late 40s. You could tell he'd seen his share of HOA drama. He adjusted his sunglasses, looked at Karen, then approached me. "You're the one who called about an intruder?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I said, handing him my phone. "I have her on video walking into my home without knocking or permission. She claims her HOA status allows her to enter." He watched the video silently. Karen kept fidgeting behind him, arms still crossed tight against her cardigan like a shield. When the sheriff turned to her, she straightened up, trying to look official. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "did you enter this man's home without permission?" "I was conducting an inspection," she replied sharply, holding up her clipboard like it was a warrant. "He signed an agreement with the HOA. I have the right." The sheriff cut her off. "The HOA agreement doesn't override state trespassing laws. You're not law enforcement. You don't have the right to enter someone's private home without explicit permission." Her face dropped. "I didn't break anything," she mumbled. The door was open. "I thought I heard someone in distress." "Really?" "Because on the video, you told him you were checking for mold." Karen froze. The sheriff sighed. "Ma'am, you need to step over here and show me your ID." She hesitated. "Wait, you're not seriously, I'm citing you for criminal trespass, ma'am. You need to cooperate." I watched her face contort. First with disbelief, then anger, and finally a flicker of panic. "You're doing this based on his word. He's been difficult with the HOA for months." "That may be," the sheriff said, "but this is about your actions, not your opinions of him." Karen finally handed over her ID, and the sheriff started writing the citation. You could see the tears welling up in her eyes as it dawned on her. This wasn't just another warning or a slap on the wrist. This was real. This will be filed with the county, the sheriff said calmly. If you step foot on his property again without permission, it could escalate. Karen sniffled, still trying to hold back her tears. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. But deep inside, I felt justice being served. Maybe for the first time since moving into this HOA nightmare. As the sheriff handed her the bright yellow citation slip, Karen's carefully curated mask of control cracked. Right there in the middle of my lawn, she broke down. I was just trying to maintain the standards of this community, she cried, her voice trembling. If people start ignoring the rules, this place falls apart. The sheriff didn't even flinch. Enforcing standards doesn't mean breaking the law. You crossed a line. I've served this HOA for 12 years, she wailed, clutching her clipboard like a life raft. You think he's the victim here? He's refused to paint his mailbox for 3 months. I almost laughed. The sheriff didn't. Ma'am, step back and take a breath, he said calmly. This isn't about mailboxes. It's about you entering a private residence without cause or permission. You're lucky he didn't press for criminal charges. That comment hit her like a slap. She turned to me with teary eyes and said, "You really want to ruin someone's life over a misunderstanding?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She was starting to realize this wasn't something she could just HOA her way out of. And then my neighbor Sharon came out with her phone. I got the whole thing, she said, holding it up proudly. Karen gasped. You filmed me? Darn right I did, Sharon snapped. I've had enough of you harassing people. You tried to fine me for having wind chimes, remember? Karen looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. She turned toward the sheriff, desperate. You can't let people just record me. You were in public, he said. And you were issuing citations yourself, weren't you? That clipboard's not exactly private property. Karen's jaw clenched. The sheriff gave her a final warning about approaching my home again, then turned to leave. Karen stood there, gripping the citation, eyes darting from me to Sharon and back again. I could see it, that desperate calculation. She was trying to figure out how to salvage her power. Too late, because the video Sharon posted to our neighborhood group that night exploded. By morning, it had spread outside our community. A local reporter picked it up. The caption read, HOA president walks into resident's home without permission. Cries when cited. The comments were brutal. Finally, one of them gets a taste of her own medicine. She really thought the clipboard made her invincible, huh? I hope that resident sues. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. For once, Karen's actions spoke louder than her clipboard ever could. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from neighbors and 1 unexpected email from the HOA board titled Urgent Emergency Meeting Request Regarding Incident with HOA President. Turns out, Sharon's video didn't just go viral, it lit a fire under the board. By noon, I was sitting in a folding chair inside the community clubhouse, facing 5 board members. Karen sat at the end of the table, blotchy-faced, eyes puffy from crying. Her usual confident posture had shriveled. The clipboard was nowhere in sight. Gregory, the HOA vice president, started the meeting. We've all seen the footage. This isn't about minor policy violations anymore. This is a legal matter. Karen opened her mouth, but he raised a hand. Karen, you walked into someone's home. You crossed every line of HOA authority. We have strict boundaries, and you shattered them. Karen's voice was low, shaking. I truly believed I was within my rights. I thought I was helping the neighborhood. I stayed silent, watching. The rest of the board didn't look convinced. Susan, the treasurer, spoke up. Karen, this isn't the first time we've had complaints. You fined Mrs. Linton for having a lawn chair out for 1 extra day. You cited Mr. Brooks for using unauthorized Christmas lights. Now this. Gregory leaned forward. We've spoken to legal counsel. If we don't act, the HOA as a whole could face liability. Your actions opened us up to possible lawsuits. Karen stiffened. You're going to fire me? We're voting, Gregory replied, already holding up a hand. All in favor of removing Karen Harrison from her role as HOA president, effective immediately. Every hand went up. One by one. No hesitation. Karen looked around like she couldn't believe what was happening. You're turning your backs on me. After everything I've done. You did this to yourself, Susan said gently. We can't protect you from the consequences. I watched as Karen slowly stood, clutching her handbag like it might save her. She turned toward me, opened her mouth to say something, but stopped. Her eyes dropped. For once, she had no speech prepared. No sarcastic remark, no warning. She left without a word. Outside, neighbors were already gathered, watching through the windows. Some had their phones out again. A few were even clapping. I didn't feel happy, just relieved. It was over. The reign of Karen had finally ended. But little did I know, this story had one more chapter left. A week passed. The neighborhood slowly started to feel normal again. Lighter, even. No random warnings on mailboxes. No angry HOA letters for ridiculous infractions. People were out walking dogs, chatting, smiling. For the first time since I'd moved in, this place felt like a community. And Karen? She vanished. No one had seen her since the emergency board meeting. Her curtains stayed drawn, her porch lights off. Rumor had it she was hiding out, too embarrassed to show her face. A few neighbors joked that she'd finally moved on to terrorize another neighborhood. But then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, something strange happened. I heard a knock. Not on the door, on the side gate. Curious, I stepped outside. And there she was, Karen, soaked, standing under a small black umbrella. No clipboard, no pastel sweater, just a plain gray coat and tired eyes. Can I talk to you? She asked softly. I didn't answer right away. I just opened the gate slightly and leaned against the frame. I know I can't undo what I did, she said, barely meeting my eyes. But I need you to hear me out. She explained everything, how she joined the HOA years ago with good intentions, how things had slowly spiraled, especially after her husband passed away. I didn't know how to grieve, so I clung to rules, control. The clipboard made me feel like I still mattered. She looked up at me, eyes glossy. It doesn't excuse what I did. Nothing does. I violated your home, your trust. I deserved that citation, and I deserved to lose my position. I stayed quiet, processing. Then she handed me a letter. I wrote a formal apology, not just to you, but to the entire neighborhood. I've submitted my resignation to the HOA board. I won't be involved again. I took the letter, but didn't open it. Before she left, she added, I also donated $500 to the local youth center in your name. I figured maybe some good could come out of my mess. And just like that, she turned and walked away. No drama, no camera crews, no screaming, just rain and silence. Later that night, I opened her letter. It was handwritten, 3 pages long. She didn't beg for forgiveness. She just owned everything. Honestly, it was the most human thing I'd ever seen from her. Forgiveness didn't come instantly. But maybe someday, because in the end, the woman who tried to walk into my home uninvited finally learned to knock. And this time, she asked, if you enjoyed watching Karen finally face the consequences, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if Karen walked into your home like that? For more crazy HOA stories, real justice moments, and neighbor showdowns, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a wild update from the neighborhood.